Would you be able to kill him with your bare hands?
I could.
Okay.
Easily and quickly, swiftly.
The goal of today's podcast is not to be karate chopped in the throat.
Yeah, right?
At any point.
I'm scared.
What's up? It's the Fresh Till Death podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Jubal Fresh. This is my hot ass wife, Alex Fresh.
Welcome.
And Fresh Till Death comes out every single Monday. iTunes, YouTube. Make sure to rate, review, comment, and subscribe. And if you don't rate, review, comment, and subscribe after this podcast, we will send our guest today to come after you.
And she will.
She will make
She
sure
has our back.
that you subscribe to the damn podcast. Fresh Till Death comes out every single Monday. The Fresh Till Death podcast, where Alex and I get high and do stuff, that comes out on Tuesdays, only on YouTube. And then the Jubal Show every single Wednesday, iTunes, YouTube, rate, review, comment, subscribe. But anyway, our guest today is, I don't know exactly what to call you because I know you as Miss Penley. Well, we know you as Miss Penley. And
I don't have my belt on, so
Yeah.
you can call me Syrena.
Yes, her real name
Just
is Syrena.
today, though.
yeah, just only today.
It's Miss Penley. She don't fuck around.
So Jack's 7-year-old, he takes Kung Fu, and you are his Kung Fu instructor, and we've gotten to know you over the past few months, and yeah, we've only known you as Miss Penley, and we were talking about it, we're like, I don't know if I can, because like you command so much respect in class, and I'm like,
seriously.
I don't want to call her by her name, and then
No,
all of a
it's fine,
sudden,
it's
like
fine.
I've got my hand wrapped around behind my back, and I'm up
This
against the
girl,
wall.
I'm like, I'm scared of her. I would not mess with her.
Yeah.
I mean, so when did you actually start Kung Fu?
Kung Fu I started 10 years ago, but I've done everything. I've done Muay Thai, I've done a little kickboxing, I've done jiu-jitsu, but Kung Fu is like the well-rounded martial arts that kind of actually just fell into my lap after I was looking for a job. They needed a front desk person, so I was the front desk girl for like the first 2 months.
Oh, really?
And then he was like, wait, you did jiu-jitsu? What are you sitting here for? So then he got me
cool.
off the desk and on the mat, and then
Oh, that's cool.
it was fate.
When did you get your black belt?
4 years ago, I want to say. Yeah,
Okay.
about 4 years ago.
Okay, so you got your black belt 4 years ago.
Yeah.
How hard was it to get?
It's extremely hard. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
It's rough. You
Yeah.
never want to do it again. You never
Right.
want to do it
What
again.
does it entail?
It's 4 hours of everything that you've done from white belt to third degree brown.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And all of the people that you've been training with from white to brown are, the higher degree black belts are there to kind of test you and beat you up for about 4 hours.
Do you compete? Have you competed?
No,
at all?
no.
Okay. We were wondering that because we've had some conversations as soon as Jack started going and taking Kung Fu, and I was like, I wonder if she competes because I want to go watch her.
I like my face. I like my teeth.
I want to go watch her beat somebody up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he could come to the studio and watch us spar around a little bit, but
Yeah. No, she's badass.
Yeah, no, and you don't like. I don't know because I'm not in that world, but I would assume there's not a lot of female.
There
black belt instructors?
isn't. There isn't. Like, I will be the first female black master at that school. Like, that is my destiny.
Right.
So there isn't a lot. There isn't a lot. So every time a female calls, I'm like, come in, please. I'll teach you. We'll be best friends.
Cool.
So yeah, I would love for there to be more females in the martial arts community.
Yeah. So did you do like combat type stuff your whole life? Or when did you get into like jiu-jitsu and
like
everything?
I was a hoodrat before.
Right.
So in the hood, that was the thing
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get into a little scuffle back and forth from school every day.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew I had a natural ability because I was winning some more than I was losing some, you know,
Yeah.
and you lose them,
yeah.
especially when you have a reckless mouth like I do.
Right.
And I'm
Can't even
small.
imagine you like that.
Yeah.
It gets out there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always think about when I die, what my funeral is going to be like, because I have this Kung Fu family, and then I have my family, and they're going to
That's
merge, and they're gonna be like, wait, you know her as this,
Yeah.
and you know her as this.
They're like,
So it's
wait a
going to be
second.
like this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's so crazy. Like after I read your book, I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
I mean, you think you know someone because like
Yeah.
they're so strict, you
Well,
know.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
no, she can't go back to a bunch of bars where she's from, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, because you see, we know you from Jax's classes, and you're, disciplined, under control,
Sorry, guys.
very, very respectable. Like you command respect
oh, yeah.
and everything else. And then you learn more about your
But
journey to being
I've
what you are now.
always been that way. Like if you ask my friends, they're like, "This job was made for you."
Really?
Because
Yeah.
I've never
Super
taken
good at
shit
it.
from kids. Like you're a kid, you don't even know what a bill looks like. You better sit down.
Yeah, exactly.
You better
No, I
sit down.
love you though. Like, I just watch you. I'm just like, I just watch you, and I'm like, I'm scared of her. Actually,
And then you learn more about your story, and you're like, oh, okay, so you were like like in the hood in Oakland and stuff like that growing up, getting kicked out of bars,
Yeah.
getting kicked out of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
getting kicked out of Planned Parenthood,
That
getting
was-
in fights.
That was a rough day. So that was here in Washington.
Oh shit! And
And-
you still can't go back if you wanted to.
And I was gonna move to Portland, and I had a boyfriend at the time, and he didn't want me to move to Portland, and I was gonna break up with him and move because I had some. It was lucrative in Portland, so he didn't want me to go. So he decided to try to knock me up. So I couldn't go. And I was like, no. So I went straight to Planned Parenthood. And they had you could either get an abortion or you can get a pill. And at that time, I could get the pill. But at that time, I was homeless. So I was bouncing around from friends' couches to couch and everything like that. So they had already put me through the whole system. They had gotten to my information and told the story. They were like, okay, this is this. She had the medicine in the little white cup. She was about to hand it to me, and then some other nurse came in and was like, oh, she can't do this because she's homeless, and we have no way of contacting her and seeing if that she's going to be okay after she leaves here. So the lady barges in and starts yelling at the nurse, like, you can't help her. And I'm like, no, you need to help me.
Yeah.
So I started flashing. I'm like, I went red. I can't even tell you what I was saying to these people, but they eventually gave it to me.
And told you not to come
But
back.
they were like, bitch, don't come back here. Don't come here. Don't go to the one in Tacoma. Don't go to the one over here in Federal Way. They blackballed my ass because I know a couple of years later I needed that morning after. And I went to the one in Kent. They typed in my name and they were like, no, bitch.
Oh,
No.
shit.
They were like, aren't you the one? And I was like, yeah, that was me. That was me. My bad. So,
Or you can use your married name.
Exactly. Now if you need it, you can use your married name.
Yeah.
But to go from that and being homeless, like you said, even Planned Parenthood being like, fuck out of here, to alcoholism, to losing your hair, to now being who you are is really impressive. But is that what kind of made you start to want to get into martial arts and stuff, was because you were fighting a lot back when you were younger?
And I despise bullies. I'm here to stop that.
Yeah.
Bullying is just horrific.
It's terrible. When did you start getting into formal?
Around junior year in high school, I started because a friend of mine started doing aerobicized kickboxing. So I went to aerobicized kickboxing with her, and the instructor was like, "Ooh, you got good form," and I was like, "Ooh, yeah, I do." So then I just kind of dabbled into everything after that. All I needed was her to tell me I had good form, and then so we need to thank that lady for who I became.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so you wrote a book, or you've actually written a few books, but it hasn't been published yet. But
No, it hasn't.
I got to read it.
Okay.
So I learned a lot about you, which is super interesting. But something that is not in there, which you talked to me about, is your childhood.
Yeah.
Which I think is, it's kind of a crazy story. Yeah. So you were born in Alaska.
I was born in Anchorage, Alaska,
and then moved to the Bay Area when you were 1?
When I was about one-ish, between 1 and 2, I believe.
Okay. Do you want to talk about what happened?
Yeah. It's deep. So my Papa was a Rolling Stone. Okay, so he had gotten my mom pregnant at the same time of getting my sister's mom pregnant, at the same time, and they were best friends. So one time, my mom, she tells the story like it happened yesterday. So they were sitting around playing spades, and she went to go get some ice, and she came back, and she just knew something happened. She just knew something happened between the two of them, and then 9 months later, they were both having a baby.
Wow.
Dang.
He made a decision that he wanted to be with Denise, and decided to leave with me and my sister and go to California.
So he took you from your mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and then he got cancer. He had a brain tumor from fighting in Vietnam. So Denise tried to keep me. She tried to keep me, but she couldn't because it was illegal.
Yeah.
So she had to give me back. And my mom then took me back because she had to. And then it was just kind of rocky between her and myself because of him and the whole situation, and I look just like him and she can't stand him, so she has to look at his face every day. So it was rough with me and my mom. Like sometimes we'd be best friends, and then sometimes she would look at the face and then it would just kind of so we never really had like that connection that she has with my sister.
Right. And you were taken from her so early, you never even got to have like a bond that a normal child has with their parent, with their mom especially.
Yeah.
You know.
So I mean, that just set all the ducks in the row for me to be angry all the time because my dad was gone and I didn't know why. And I know my sisters, I have two sisters. So my oldest sister, who has a different dad, she has a dad and I don't have a dad. And my mom's not really telling me anything about my dad because he passed away when I was like 3. So, and then when I was about 9, we get a phone call from my sister who had found us somehow. I think she had contacted some of our family in Alaska, and they had somehow got through the grapevine that found out where my mom was and I was. And then so she called us, and I answered the phone, and I instantly knew it was my sister when I heard her voice over the phone. Like I just instantly knew it was her.
Oh, you're okay.
And it had been like 10 years, and I hadn't seen her since like we were 3 years old.
Yeah.
And then we talked for like an hour, and then she was like, I'm going to call you back tomorrow. And I didn't hear from her again. And I'm like, what the fuck? So again, I'm trying to find the space of where I belong and who my family is. And I lost my sister again. And cut to when we're 29. So another 10 years has passed. And she was scrolling through Facebook. I don't even think she was looking for me. And I had already gotten married. And my in-laws are white from that marriage. So she was on my brother Chuck's MySpace. Don't even know who this guy is. And she sees that he has a sister named Syrena. And it's my wedding picture that's up. And she looks, she's like, oh, my sister's name is Syrena, and clicks on it and looks at the picture and sees that I kind of look like her sister. So she texted him and was like, hey, I think that girl is my sister. And she goes, I'm this age. And he goes, you can't be her sister because she's that age. He goes, no, you don't understand. We're both this age. I was born 6 days after her.
Wow.
And he was like, and then he calls me, he was like, do you have a sister named Felicia? And I was like, yes, how do you know that? And he was like, oh, she's looking for you. And he just sent me the message, and then we got back together. And it's like, when I say we're twins, like we come from different mothers. When I say we're twins, we're twins. Like I can feel her right here in my side.
Wow.
And I felt her there my whole life. Like I always knew that I had someone out there. And I could feel it in my soul that someone was out there for me. So every time we kind of would reconnect, I would feel like that connection again, like I was whole again.
Yeah.
And then when we get torn apart, I'm back to angry.
Yeah.
And there's nothing anybody can do when I'm angry. There's nothing anybody can do. Like I have this aura about me, and it affects everybody. And I don't give a shit when I'm angry. So if I'm having an argument with this person, it's affecting you, and I don't give a shit because my aura just kind of comes out, and like people can feel it. So it was just rough.
Yeah. Well, that's how it is when you have when you've come into the world, how you came into the world, and you have this deep-seated anger.
Yeah.
That's misplaced. It's different than people who are just kind of hotheads, you know, and it affects you in so many ways, not even just in being angry, but day to day, until you learn to like kind of cope with it, which is what you've been able to do, which is impressive for anybody to do, especially somebody who has dealt with the things that you've dealt with. It's impressive, but until you learn to cope with it, it's just it's impossible to control, you know. And it had to be so rough for you growing up with all that going on, and then to be living where you were living and fighting all the time and everything else. And I would imagine that martial arts helped kind of
Yes.
bring that in a little bit, you know?
It did, but I started. Can I have a tissue?
Yeah.
Oh, usually have some in here.
So I started for selfish reasons because I'm a small person.
Yeah.
But I have to say what I want to say all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So my mouth would get me into trouble. So I started because I wanted to be able to speak my mind and defend myself
Right, yeah.
afterwards. So I started for that reason, which isn't a great reason.
No.
But it then led me to understand like how delicate life is and how easily I could totally kill somebody by accident.
Yeah.
Like if somebody like came up to me and like approached me the wrong way right now on the street, like I could totally accidentally kill him and be like, oh fuck, he was just doing this and now he's dead. So life is so precious and so we have such a short time here. I kind of had to like release that anger because it was only affecting me.
Yeah.
It was only affecting me.
All right. So then you said that you were 29 when she reached out. So do you guys talk still? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Constantly.
So since 29 until now.
Yeah.
Which do you mind telling your age?
I'll be 40 in August.
40 in August.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Man,
that's-
it's gonna hurt when you turn 40. I'm just telling you, everything hurts.
Please.
I turned 40. No, you're like you got everything dialed in.
like, I'm good.
Your
I got it. I
your diet's
figured
dialed
out.
in. You've changed your life. You're in great shape, mentally, physically, all that.
And-
You'll be fine. For me, when I turned
She's a
40,
black belt.
oh man, it hurt. It still hurts. Every day hurts.
Yeah, he did. He woke up and he's like, ow.
I'm like, oh, what is wrong with me? Oh yeah, I'm 40.
Yeah.
But you don't look like you're about to turn 40 at all.
Yeah.
I would have had no idea. You know?
Nope. So go back to when you were younger.
Okay.
So
And
sorry to interrupt, but your brand and what you're starting to do is called Hoodrat Hippie.
Yes.
And the reason is because of where you came from and
Yes.
to where you are now.
Yes.
So yeah, I think
okay, so when I read your book, I didn't know this about you, or really anything about your personal life. But when you started drinking, do you want to talk about that?
Yes.
How old were you when you first started drinking?
I was 25-ish. It was around like the beginning of my first marriage is when I first started drinking. And it started because like I hate to tell the story because I don't want to blame.
right.
Because I'm an alcoholic and I'm an adult, so I kind of have to own it and just kind of be responsible for myself. But when me and my first husband got together, it was like we did everything right. Like we were high school sweethearts. We got married like after we graduated, and we got our jobs and we got our apartment and everything was great. And then he got he started laying carpet and it took a toll on his body. And he blew his knee out and his back out, and then he had to get on medication, and then it just went downhill from there. So the medication he just became an addict, and there was nothing I could do about it. And he hid it very well. He was high functioning, but the rent was always due and the electricity was always due. And then we went to Rent-A-Center and got a big screen TV, and I'm like, what for? We can't even do this. And then they came and got that shit.
Oh, I forget about
Yeah.
Rent-A-Center.
You can get the whole setup.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
You get the whole setup.
And you'd be in debt forever.
I had this one ex. We went to Rent-A-Center and we got a computer and a TV, and then he just gave him the neighbor's address. So when we didn't pay for it, they just went to the neighbor's house.
Looking for it. Yeah. Rent-A-Center was awesome.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like my fairy tale had just blew up because this whole life that we had built together just kind of started to crumble.
Was this in Oakland?
No, this was here.
This was in Seattle.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I was already in my 20s
Okay.
and married.
Got it.
Okay. So
So when my marriage started to fall apart, which anybody who was at my wedding would have told you that we were going to be together forever, because he was super awesome and we were awesome together, and that's just how we thought it was going to be. But drugs happen, and when you're an addict and you don't want help, you have to help yourself, and when you don't want help, the people around you kind of just have to live their own lives. And I kind of just had to take my baby and go because he wasn't admitting that he had a problem.
Yeah.
But still shit wasn't getting paid.
Yeah.
And you have a good job, motherfucker. So why isn't this bill getting paid?
Yeah. Yeah.
So explain that to me. Help me to understand that. Oh, you can't? Then I got to go. We got to go.
Yeah. And that's the thing that when people deal with addicts and people like that, they try. I mean, you can try so much, but at a certain point, people can only really change themselves. Like with everything, really. And if you have to just protect yourself at a certain point, you know. And Alex knows that too. Like you just have to be like, all right, you have to want to do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave and see if you want to change because I left, then go for it.
But like the drinking had already I had the baby. And it's like right after I had the baby, and then that's when all the shit started to fall apart. So I would wait until he got into the house. As soon as he got home, I would hand him the baby and just start until I passed out. And that would just be my day. And then at that time, I was just drinking like Natty Ice. I wasn't drinking anything but yeah, I would have my Natty Ice every day and then pass out. And in the morning, I would be good to go to be a mom. And then you come home and it would just be that over and over again until I just drank myself into this stupor of depression, and then my hair started falling out. And then I'm like, oh, well, it's just because of postpartum shedding or just because the stress because these motherfuckers keep knocking on my door all the time. It's just stress. It's just stress. It's just stress. And it's just him and it's just her and it's just this. And I didn't look within myself and realize that I can control this. I can take ownership of this. So I can't deal with him and his shit anymore. I kind of have to start taking care of myself because I was really just wasting away.
Well, you completely changed your whole life around.
Yeah.
And became a black belt.
Yeah.
So you drank all through that, and then take us from that to like when you decided that you need to stop drinking.
So when I left him, like I'm shocked that my daughter survived because I was a raging alcoholic. Like I went from him to females. Like I ran through so many females after I left him because I was like, fuck dudes, you know?
Yeah.
And I can't even tell you how many women I've been with.
Wow.
But then I got a boyfriend. He got the worst of me. Like he got the worst of me because I was horrible. Like I was abusive, verbally and physically.
That's the other thing too. Sorry, I just dawned on me. I'm like, normally in a relationship, because of just the strength and power dynamic, women don't get, or men don't get physically abused. But if you're with a black belt, you're probably going to get your ass kicked.
Well, at that time, I was only kind of like dabbling here and there and this and that.
But you still been fighting your whole life.
Like, I could still fight.
Yeah.
But so our routine with him was food, fighting, and fucking. Like that's what we would do. And not necessarily in that order, but it would always be the 3 Fs all the time with me and him.
Yeah.
So we would make up and break up. We would drink.
Yep.
Have this a whole passionate thing. Okay.
That's the cycle of abuse right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
We would fight. So I'll tell you a story about him. We were at one of his friend's house, and it was at the end of the day. We were drinking. It was just me and him left there. And we were in an argument because that's the routine. And we started physically fighting. And we were tearing the house up. And I remember him kind of like grabbing me by my collar like this. And I'm just doing what I can. And he's breaking everything in the house with me.
Wow.
Right? So he's just like breaking everything in the house with me. And that's the last thing I remember.
Damn.
And then I wake up. And we're both butt naked spooning on the couch. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck happened? I'm like, did we make up? What the fuck? And I look, the whole house is destroyed.
Tore up.
And he gets up, he was like, oh, babe, I think you gave me a concussion.
Oh my God.
And that was our regular thing.
Yeah.
That was our regular thing. Like, so that was, I got a million of them.
Yeah. But that's how abusive relationships are.
Yeah.
It builds, tension builds, then there's a blow up, and then everything's great for a second, and then it goes back to it, you know.
So then you wanted to figure out how to get on like a more healthier lifestyle when you...
Yes. So I kept battling with the hair. And
so tell us about that. The hair, like
Alopecia, right?
Alopecia.
Yes.
So you had
I won't even say the whole long name, but I have the CCCA, alopecia.
So you have alopecia, and that explain what that is for people that don't know, because I really don't.
So it's when you just start losing your hair and you have no idea why, and it's normally an autoimmune disease. Like if you have like the alopecia areata, I think I'm saying that wrong, but that's like the most common kind. But the kind that I have is most common in Black women, and it's usually something that we're doing to ourselves. It's not just a thing that's happening. It's not something. Yeah. So it could be taken care of.
That's gotta be hard to start losing your hair, especially as a woman. You know, like I hate to put a gender on it, but but dudes can just shave their head, or we go bald or whatever. You know, but
and
like,
I was bald. Like my crown
Wow.
had nothing on it. Like I could show you a picture. This big.
Gosh.
It had
You said
nothing
you're
on
bawling
it.
in the shower,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I would be dying.
Yeah.
when did you first start noticing your hair falling out?
After I had Samara, because I was waiting for it, because that whole postpartum shedding thing is supposed to happen.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, it's happening.
Is that
You
normal?
lose hair like after.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't really notice it, but
Yeah.
a
noticed.
lot of women lose hair after.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
So-
thought it was just that?
Yeah, I thought it was just that, and then it just progressed and progressed, and the depression progressed, and the stress progressed. So I just kind of just kept thinking it was that, and it would come and it would go. So I would, but I was drunk the whole time.
Yeah. I was gonna say, and that would probably lead
Yeah.
you drinking more. Like, fuck, my hair's falling out.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
a drink.
So I really didn't care about fixing it until I met my second husband. And with my second husband, my whole world changed. I started realizing that I wasn't a piece of shit, you know, and then I started getting sober because, and it's going to sound shitty, I didn't want to change for me. I wanted to change for him, because I knew that he had just given me the world, and he had just totally changed my life. Because before I met him, I was just drinking all day, and I would be in my room just drinking all day. And then when he came into my life, he kind of showed me like how to better take care of myself, and that I was worth it.
Yeah.
And when I met him, all I wanted was for some dude to come over and make out with me.
Yeah.
That's
How did
all
you
I
guys
wanted. Online.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted some dude to come over every once in a while, and I told him that when we were texting back and forth. I was like, "This is what I want, and this is what I need." And when we met at the restaurant, like as soon as the eyes met, I was like, "Oh shit,
There's more.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I am in trouble." And then it was just.
But I
was-
think sometimes when you struggle with stuff like, I mean, for me too, you know, I struggle with substance issues and things like that, and numbing things. Sometimes it does take somebody telling you that you are worth it to help you go, oh, okay, I am, and then you change for yourself.
Yeah.
I think, you know.
Yeah, my mom, like I was telling you, was an alcoholic, or is an alcoholic, and is 9 years sober, and you're 8 years sober, which is amazing. And it's something to be very, proud
It's
of.
rough,
But
it's a day-to-day thing.
I mean, I couldn't even have a conversation with my mom anymore because I couldn't stand her drinking. Like even when she was sober, I just was being a bitch to her because I couldn't stand her anymore. And I was like 24 at the time. So I told her, I was like, you can do you. I can't do this anymore though. Like, so I'm gonna take your grandkids. Like I can't. Like we're gonna walk away. Like you can keep drinking, but I just can't be rude to you like this anymore because she would just annoy me so bad. And then she quit drinking. And I'm like, yeah, until she starts drinking again, you know?
Yeah.
And then she didn't. So very proud of her as well.
Yeah.
But I know the struggle, and I grew up with it, both my parents, and I know how hard it is, and I know the effects that it has on everybody around. And it's very impressive that you got sober and did the things that you have done since you got sober, and are you where you are now.
Yeah. So once I got sober, it was about like finding out who I was as a sober person. I think that's why I was drunk for so long, was because I was like, I'm not going to be funny anymore. I'm not going to be fun anymore. I'm not going to be, you know.
Oh man, it's so scary.
Yeah.
Because I was able to like stop drinking for a year and like relearn a relationship with alcohol. Most people don't really do that, but I was able to figure it out. But that year of like, I'm not going to drink anymore was so weird because I was always, since I was 13 years old, the guy that that would get the drunkest, the guy that you could tell to do whatever and he would do it, the guy that would get in fights, the guy that would do this, the guy that would do that, the guy that would always wake up with a crazy story the next day. And I'm like, how's anybody think I'm funny if I don't have these crazy stories? If I'm not the guy who's like taking his pants off and almost getting arrested, then how's anybody gonna like me anymore? And so it is scary to be like that. So
and you don't know who you are as a sober person.
You have no idea.
You kind of just have to sit and go, okay, I'm sober, and now what?
Yeah. Like,
So,
who am I actually?
Yeah.
And it's weird to sit in that and try to figure it out.
It's weird and it's scary and it's rough and it's a journey, but you kind of have to push through that. You have to push that, and the withdrawals is what really gets people all the time.
Learning about your withdrawals, I mean, I heard from my mom, similar withdrawal symptoms, but like the pain that you experienced and everything, like it's just
it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, like alcohol withdrawals can kill some people. And
so how was it when you stopped drinking?
It wasn't bad. It wasn't like that. But I was like I wasn't getting blacked out on the daily. It would be pretty much a couple times a week.
But he started drinking when he was 13.
Yeah.
I mean, he would wake up on people's doorsteps, like doesn't know where he's at. He'd black out all the time.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It wasn't. For some reason, it wasn't like that for me.
Mine was daily.
Yeah, but I think
all day,
that,
every day.
Yeah, that might be if it's like you're. I mean, because there's.
It's the only thing my body knew. So when I took it away, my body just shut down.
Yeah. Like if you're drunk every single day and you're a high functioning alcoholic, I think that's different than because that was your mom too. Because I went to AA for a minute.
I've been to AA a lot.
Yeah, she's been to AA with her mom a lot. And it was interesting for me to hear because I was always like, I can't even go to AA because I'm not drinking every day. But it's just I drink a lot, and then every single time I drink, it's bad. But you hear the different stories, and you hear people talking. They're like, "No, you're just like a different kind of alcoholic."
Yeah.
But I never had those symptoms. But
so I'm a dry drunk, is what they call it, because I never really like work the steps, and I don't go to like AA, and like I still hang out with the same friends. I still might smoke weed every once in a while. So I'm like that.
Well.
Yeah.
I'm that dry drunk. I'm not sober, I guess is what you would call it.
I know, it's weird. Like, why? Just because you don't have, you're not in some sort of program.
That was the thing about AA.
Not drinking alcohol. How are you not sober?
Yeah, you're sober.
Yes.
You definitely are sober.
Yes.
But that's one thing about AA that I kind of found strange too, is like there's different levels of people in there. There are some people are like, you can't even have mouthwash or you've like fallen off. And some people are like, and that to me, that was crazy. I'm like, well, what if it happens by accident, you know? And then all of a sudden you have to start over.
That's funny because when I stopped drinking, mouthwash would trigger me, and I would accidentally swallow mouthwash because it would take me back to chugging out of a bottle. Wow. And I would chug the mouthwash and have to stop myself.
Wait a second.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like it's so crazy because like I can't relate to that because I don't like to drink, and I've never been, I blacked out maybe once on accident, but I haven't been drunk that much because I hate it really. Yeah. So it's just so interesting to like, because you guys know what it feels like and like the struggles and stuff, and it's
to not be able to like. It's so hard to not be able to control something like that. Like that was my thing. I would, days after or morning after, something bad happens or whatever, you black out and feel like an idiot and everything else. For years, it's always like, okay, why can't I just go, I'm kind of buzzed right now. I could stop. Why can't I? And I figured out why. And that was the one thing about AA that was big for me was the resentment thing. When I first go in there, they talk about resentment all the time. And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like resentment, I don't get it. But then I realized, you're numbing some stuff. And then I started looking into the things that I was numbing. And once you kind of drop that stuff and start to really look at yourself and be honest with yourself, then you can go, okay, here's the problem. And here's how I can deal with it better. But I think you put in your book, it was hard to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It is super hard to be honest with yourself about the things that you struggle with or things that you're ashamed of or things that you don't like about yourself. But you have to do that if you want to like break away from drinking or whatever the vice is that you have that's hurting you, that you're using to numb things. You have to be able to do that to stop doing that. So, that had to be hard for you.
Yeah. And it was AA. Like I failed at AA a lot because the areas that I live in, I didn't really belong. And going into the places, I could tell I didn't belong there. And so I started listening to the Oakland podcast. And that is what saved my life, is because I turned it on. I heard my aunts, I heard my uncles, I heard my friends, I heard people that sound like me, and I could just listen to it on the way to work, on the way back, and I could hear the stories and I could relate to it.
For sure.
And even though I wasn't there, I felt like I was going to AA meetings.
Right.
Even though I wasn't speaking, I felt like I was getting the benefits and the knowledge of going to AA meetings. And even though I didn't work the steps, I still felt like that whole step of finding a higher power. That's why I went to Thailand. That's why I'm a Buddhist now, because before, fuck God, like,
He's
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, he's not here for me.
And you were able to actually even get your hair to grow back, all based off of like what would you say? What would you? I mean, I know
I had
that
to change
you know you've changed everything,
Jubal. I had to change everything because even when I changed what I ate, what was in my head was making my hair fall out. So even when I changed what I was putting in my body, I had to really sit down with myself and be like, why can't I sit alone for 5 seconds without something shitty popping in my head? So I had to figure that out too. So I had to go see a therapist. I had to meditate. I had to yoga. So that's why I do yoga. That's why I meditate. That's why. It's not because I'm this hippy dippy woo woo. I am now. I am now. I'm going to encourage everybody to do it.
Yeah.
But it was all for selfish reasons. I wanted my fucking hair back.
For sure.
So I tried spirituality. I tried yoga. I tried everything. And it was the combination of everything that allowed my hair to grow back. It wasn't just me rubbing coconut oil on my scalp
Right.
and eating vegetables.
Yeah.
I had to really wrap my mind around what the fuck was fucking me up.
Right. You went on a diet of like no sugar,
No sugar,
nothing.
no gluten.
And do you still not eat sugar?
Not as much.
Yeah.
Not as much. Because when I do, I get sugar rages and then like my little edges start to fall out and then I have to like go back.
wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
People
That
don't-
was like I have like
yeah.
the biggest sweet tooth.
Yeah. I mean, I can eat some, but I try not to go because yeah. When I was pregnant with Kyla, they had to give me that fructose thing. I almost killed somebody that day. I think Trump had just got elected or something. Yeah, it was that day. So they had shot me up with a bunch of sugar. Trump had just got elected, and I had went to the store, and I handed somebody a bill, and he lifted it up like this, and I almost punched him in the throat.
Like a little bitch.
Because he went like
Like that,
this.
you're like, I see an opening.
It was this close.
That's really funny.
Oh, you're too much. I never would have thought. I never would have ever said that you've been 86 from anywhere.
Everywhere.
No.
Everywhere.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that's so nuts.
Yeah.
You just don't know someone you think.
Everywhere. And I was always the one that would be like, okay, ladies, we're not going to get in trouble this evening. You know, we're going to pre-funk here. We're going to go.
Yeah.
We're going to have a good time. And then later on, be like, Syrena, go down.
Shit.
Well, we got to go. So, yeah.
So you saw a naturopath, and is that what
Yes.
eventually
Yes.
got you on the track to being able to like grow your hair back?
So she helped you with
She
like, a
helped
diet.
me identify the toxins that I was putting in my body. And from there, and because I'm an addict, you give me something good and I'm going to take it and I'm going to fucking run with it. So if you say, oh, well, your deodorant is toxic, I'm going to go home and I'm going to take everything out of my house. The deodorant, is this toothpaste toxic? So I went through everything in my house. So anything that goes like on or in my body has to be 100% natural. If I can look and I can't spell the word or say the word, then it's not going in. It's not going in. And that's how it was for the first year. And I had to get through those withdrawals again.
Yep.
Because it's the same with sugar and gluten. It's in every fucking thing.
Yeah.
So when you
Everything.
rip it out of your
It
body
is.
cold turkey, and I have to do that. I can't pussyfoot anything
Right.
because I'm an addict. So I have to be gung ho with everything.
So
with
you-
everything.
You shop
Yeah.
at Whole Foods
Yes.
primarily always.
No,
Okay.
no. Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, but you can get Whole Food at Safeway.
yeah.
That's where people get the stigmas that you think you have to go to Whole Foods to get a Whole Food. It's just
No.
food that isn't processed.
Right. So, but when you go to Whole Foods, like there's still a lot of stuff that they sell that you don't want to have.
Right.
So-
So I stay away from the middle aisles. So when I go to a grocery store, I go around the outside.
That's interesting.
the vegetables.
And yes,
and all
The
that.
so
meat.
That's true.
and
Yeah,
like even like the dairy and shit, I try to stay away from.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
I have like
Yeah, I was watching that video with the wings.
The
I was
wings
like,
are-
he can't have milk with the water. What is he
Oh.
gonna do?
I was dead. I was
Yeah.
so dead after that. Like
He
the
literally-
whole rest of the day, I felt so sick.
if someone should change their eating, only because of his food allergies. I'm like, this poor guy, every day, every goddamn day.
I've always had digestive issues.
Hurts. My stomach hurts. I'm like, yeah. It's because he just has some freaking ice cream.
And I also noticed I noticed the mental aspects too. Like if I'm eating really poorly all the time, I feel more down than and the times in my life where I've felt the best, like all around, and because I have like an kind of obsessive personality, like, and then it changes. But I'll like get obsessed with them for like 6 months, and for a while, all I was eating was boiled chicken and broccoli every day. That's all I was eating.
It's gross.
And like vegetables.
You
and
stink
stuff.
like shit.
It was terrible. Yeah, it was gross. But I was working out a bunch, and I was trying to get in shape, and then but I felt great. But almost anything I eat now, I should probably, like I'm sure I have a gluten allergy. I'm sure almost everything I eat now makes me feel bad all the time. And some days it's so bad, like my stomach is literally hard. And I'm like, why do I keep doing this to myself?
I know, I don't understand.
Yeah, anything that makes my stomach bubbly, I can't because it'll affect.
It affects your hair.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It is.
So I have to really watch out.
Didn't know why it.
I don't know, because if you go to when I went to a dermatologist, he was just like, oh, well, you just kind of have to take this medication and get the scalp injections and this and that. And I was devastated because at that time, like I said, I could show you a picture. My bald spot was this big.
Wow.
Like my crown had nothing on it. And like the little patch that was left, he literally went and it just came right off. Like that's how rapidly my hair was falling out at that time, to where he could just take a chunk and it just come right off my scalp.
Wow.
That's
and
crazy.
Then he was like, okay, well, and he was brown, so he said he worked with a lot of black women and that he was going to get me back on track, and all I had to do was get these injections in my scalp and put on this steroid cream, and it was going to come back. Mm-hmm. And I was like, fuck you, I can't, like I'm already putting so much stuff in my body right now that I'm taking everything out of my body. I can't put more toxins back in my body because it makes me crazy. Mm-hmm. And my hair's falling out. So I was like, no. And so I cried and I cried. I called my friends. But my husband, he's my knight. Mm-hmm. And when he tells me things, I believe him. And he was like, we will figure this out. We're going to figure this out. Because I had given up. I was like, I'm just going to be bald. I'm just going to be bald. I'm going to wear wigs. And I like wigs. I wear wigs all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I had given up. But he found her. When he doesn't half-ass anything. When he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. So he was like, he went online and he found, and when he gets them, it's going to be the best of the best. And he found the best lady for me. And I went to her and I immediately connected with her, and she had these long dreadlocks, and she was about this tall, and I'm sure she was 60, but she looked 20.
Yeah.
And when I looked at her, I was like, I want that. Like I wanted everything about her aura. So I just listened to every single thing she said. She was like, I think you're poisoning yourself. She was, I think you're doing this to yourself. And I was like, okay. She was like, okay, so we're going to start with this. We're just going to detox. And detox fucking sucks. It sucks because you have to go through that withdrawal again. Yeah. And sugar and gluten is in everything.
It really is.
It's in everything. Mm-hmm. And with me, my goal weight is 130. I want to be 130 just so I can be a little thick in the hips and have my abs still. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I can never seem to get up to 130. So now I'm cutting gluten and sugar out of my life, and I all the way down to 117. So I'm like emaciated. And so I would try to clean out my body, lose a lot of weight, and then I would get down to 117 and feel disgusting. So I would put it back into my body, and then the hair would fall out. So I was teetering. So I had to find a happy medium. Yeah. I had to find a happy medium. So I went to the therapy to kind of get my mind right. And then through trial and error, I just found what worked for me.
Well, that's impressive. And your book, you're going to publish it.
Yes.
Sooner than later.
Yes.
Yeah. So when that happens, where can people find you?
I'm going to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
And we'll make sure to promote it too when you get it all up and running, because we've talked about a lot of stuff, but your story is really, really interesting. You've been through a lot, and to go from where you came from to where you are now, and then also you even just with learning to change your diet to help get your hair back and everything. Like there's so many health issues that people have that they don't even realize is caused by their diet and things that they're putting into their body. And I guarantee there's a lot of women who struggle with alopecia, like you did or do still.
I see it all the time. And they're begging for help. And there's women out there who are like, oh, just rub this on your scalp. I grow all my hair back. Like I see it on YouTube all the time, and I see it everywhere all the time. Like they have this magic hair growth elixir. And when I tell people that I grew my hair back, I'm not promising you that you're going to grow your hair back, but something good is going to come out of it. You're going to feel great in the end.
Yeah.
And every time like I get off my diet and then I get back on my diet, I'm like, wow, why did I ever fucking stop doing this? I feel wonderful.
Yeah,
but I'm an addict, so sometimes I drink sugar. Sometimes I eat sugar. Sometimes I eat gluten. And my students, they bring me cookies and shit, and I can't say no. I don't. You know, I can't eat it, so I eat it. So it's like the alcoholism. It's a day-to-day thing. Every time I go to the store, I have to spend 5 minutes going, oh no, that has high fructose. I can't do it.
Yeah. And so you can definitely inspire a lot of people. So we'll make sure people, when you get everything up and running, that they check it out.
I need a foot up my ass, though. I need that
your
fire.
Black belt. I mean, come on.
Under my ass, because I've been sitting on this book for 3 years, and I had a whole baby. Yes,
there's a lot of stuff going on.
I mean, you've accomplished a lot. You should be very proud of yourself.
Yeah, you should.
I am, but I feel like it's going to sound weird, but I feel like I have so much more to do. I feel like I have so many people that I can help, and like that's what I'm here for.
That's fine, and you will, and you're on your way, and you're a hard worker.
I am,
and I believe in you. And I think you can do
it. Thank you.
So once she gets everything rolling, we're going to be sharing her stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We'll have you come back when you got it all rolling, and then we'll talk some more about stuff like that. Yeah, but
and I'm gonna punch you both for making me cry.
As soon as this camera, I'm gonna run out of here.
Yeah, don't do that. You don't have any sugar over there, right? Yeah, thanks for stopping by, and it's really interesting, and I know you'll help a lot of people for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you too.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Okay.
we'll see
we love you.
We'll see you at Jackson's
I love you guys
now.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, he's doing awesome.
Good.
He's doing awesome.
I know.
He's
Seriously
a
though,
rock
like when I go, I'm like, oh god, there she is. Like, did she hate me because I smoke weed? Because she knows I smoke weed.
No.
Actually, Alex did say that one time.
Oh, I wanted to reiterate because I was trying to tell you that story when I had saw your guys' podcast, but I wanted to reiterate on my story. So my first husband, he had just gotten a job at Safeco Field. And it was like an hour and a half long orientation. And I'm piggybacking off of her story that she told when she took a shit in the Starbucks cup. Yeah. So back then, I only ate AM PM nachos. Like I only ate AM PM nachos and drank 211 and Four Loko. So we had our Cadillac Eldorado, which was my dream car, still is my favorite car. We drove it over to his job that he had the orientation, but I had to sit in the car for the hour. And I'm there, I'm excited. My man's about to get a job. And then my stomach was like, huh? And I'm like, oh God. But I'm downtown, so everything's like no bathroom, bitch. You got to buy some shit first, right? And I'm not going to that McDonald's because I will get into a fight, right? so I'm like driving around sweating, wondering what am I going to do? So I had to like pull into this alley, and because I eat them all the time, I had that AM PM nacho container in my back seat. So I'm like, I'm pondering it for a second. Nope, I went into my back seat. I hunkered down in my back seat, and I let it loose in that little container and just tossed it out the window.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah. She was like,
if you've never almost shit yourself, what type of life are you living?
Right?
Like for real?
Seriously.
I know. When she was like, I want to tell you something. And I was like, oh shit, what did I do? What did I do now?
if you haven't listened to, I think it was like the first podcast that we did together. Yeah. The first podcast we did together, Alex tells a story of her having to take a shit.
It's a true story.
In an item from a store as well. And we saw you like the week after, and you were just like, I gotta talk to you to Alex. And she was like, oh no, what did I do? So that was
and then told me shit, and I'm like, yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
well, thank you for coming in and hanging out.
Thank you so much.
And it's amazing what you've done. Even the shitting in the AMP.
Yeah.
I don't shit in nacho cups anymore.
And now it's like a whole grain something.
I'm regular.
That was like a recycle bag or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's compostable, whatever it is. We know that.
Biodegradable.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.